Hello guys, hi again. So it's time for our final video of the day. So as I told you, we're going to be talking about science. And now in the past few lessons, we talked about the difference between living and non-living. And you remember things that are not living either used to be living or they were never living. But now I want you to think about living things, okay? Because from this lesson on, we are not going to pay so much attention to non-living things, okay? We're going to talk about them later in the year when we talk about materials, but now we are going to focus about what makes things living, okay? And talk about some of the characteristics of living things, yeah? How they grow, where they live, how they feed themselves, okay? So here you could hear some of the characteristics of living beings. So let's remember, for a being to be living, it needs to breathe, it needs to drink water and eat, it needs to grow, it needs to produce more of itself, and it needs to be moving. Yeah, every living being has the need to move in one way or another. Now, you remember that in our geography lessons, we've been talking very much about our homes. And we were also talking about why we need a home. Yeah, we said we need a home to protect us from the outside, from the weather, to give us a place where we can sleep, store our things, eat, and so on and so on. Yeah, so we need a place to live, we as humans, and we as humans, we need a shelter, yeah, a home. But we're not the only ones. Every living being needs a place where they are going to live. So think of a few animals, for example. So what are the first animals that come to your mind? Maybe a bird, a worm, and a fish. So where do they live? They could all be living together in a park, let's say. You have a tree, and the bird lives in the tree, yeah? Under the tree, around it, there is some soil where a worm lives. And in that park, you have a little pond. And in that pond, there could be a fish. So it's a small area, but those are three different places where they live. Those are three different, we say, habitats, yeah? So let's take a look at this picture. I also sent it to you, so it might be easier for you if you open it on your computer. But let's take a look at this lovely picture. And it says, look at each animal, look at each plant. Where does it live? Why does it live there, yeah? So, for example, you have a bird, you have an owl here. This owl lives inside the tree. But this one, this type of bird, also lives on a tree. However, it lives in a nest on a tree. So this bird knows how to make its own nest. This bird probably goes searching for holes in trees and makes its nest there inside the already existing holes, yeah? Then I don't know if you can see here, but there are some bunnies. They live in these like little holes underground, tiny little dens, yeah? So they also make their homes, but not in a tree, in the soil, yeah? Then you have here a snake. Where does a snake live? A snake could be found under a rock, but snakes sometimes also live in the water. Talking about water, you have fish, and I suppose this would be tadpoles, which in time are going to grow and become frogs, yeah? And then what else do we have here? You can see that in the distance, maybe of this park, I don't know if you can see, but there are mountains, just like Andes that we have here. And you can see a fox, yeah? A fox is coming slowly looking at the rabbit, yeah? Because rabbits are food for foxes. Okay, so what we can say is that all animals can be found in natural environments, yes? So natural environments are places which were not made by man, but they're always existed, yeah? They're made by nature. But besides those natural environments, many animals can also be found in zoos or in farms or even in your own homes as your pets. Now, of course, cats and dogs, but also when you think about it, a fish, which usually lives in the sea or the ocean, might be living in your living room, yeah? A spider that usually lives in the mountain might be living in a terrarium in your bedroom, okay? I mean, if you wanted to live there, the same goes for a hamster, a ferret. There are many different types of pets. Now, what I want you to take a look at here, okay, is this. There's another page, and we're going to talk about it a bit more next time when we have science class. But besides animals that have their homes and their habitats, how we call the places where they naturally live, the same goes for plants, yeah? So you also have plants, some of them live in the water, some of them live on the soil, in many different places. But before we focus on that, before we talk more about plants, I want you to take a look at what I have here for you today. I think that when talking about animals, it's very important to know well the animals that live together with us. And I don't mean your pets, but I mean animals that we share our living space with. So today, I'm going to show you a little bit about animals that live here in Chile together with us. Okay, so I have here presentations with many different pictures. Okay, there's like 10 animals. I'm going to show them to you, tell you their names, and let's see if you already know where they live, yeah? So do you know what this is? This is a condor. It lives here in the Andes, in these mountains that you can probably see from your homes that surround us. Now, these birds are very, very big. They're huge. Their wings, when they spread them out like this, are wider than a very tall man is tall. So they can be around 2 meters wide. Yeah, they're obviously very big birds. And sometimes you can also see them, well, you can see them sometimes from school flying high up in the sky. Yeah. Now these are two very, very popular animals because they're absolutely adorable, and that would be an alpaca and a llama. Yeah, I wanted to put them together so you can see what's kind of the difference between these two animals because they're very similar. Alpacas are a little bit smaller. They have a bit shorter necks, yeah, and their ears are like this, whereas llamas have longer necks and their ears are like this, yeah? Where can you find them? You can find them in some mountains, but more often than that, you can find them on farms because people grow them on farms because of their fur, yeah? Oh, a fox. Now, for me, the first place when I would think, where does a fox live? I would say, of course, in a forest. But that's actually not completely true. Foxes do live in rainforests, but they can also be found in deserts. Now, if you've ever been to the north of Chile, you might have seen foxes living in the desert. Yeah, that is actually quite common to see. Who are these guys? These are flamingos. Beautiful birds. Now the thing about flamingos is whenever you see their picture, they seem to be somewhere close to water. So this is true. They do live in very close to water, but what kind of water do they live? Do they live in the seas and the oceans? I mean, by the seas and the oceans? Not really. Flamingos actually live in salty, or we can say by salty lakes. Another type of bird, which does not live in a tree, does not fly, but instead lives on the Arctic shore, is the penguin. Yeah? So penguins live in very, very cold conditions. You would not see a penguin flying, but what's very interesting is that you might see a penguin diving. Now, if you've been to the coast, and I know that you all have, you might have had the chance to see these lovely animals maybe first when we see them, we would say, oh my gosh, those are some seals, but these are actually called sea lions. Yeah, so sea lions live on the shore. Yeah, they get inside the ocean water, but a lot of the time they spend also on the rocks by the shore, or in the yeah, well, basically, yeah, by the shore. And this beautiful cat is a puma. Now, pumas also live in the Andes, in the mountains, but you might see that this puma here is in a tree. They don't live in the trees, but they are very good climbers. They can climb trees, obviously. And what can also happen, and recently happened, is that it happens occasionally that pumas, when it's very everybody's very quiet in the city, wanders into the city, yeah, because the noise that we make in our homes, driving our cars, scares away the pumas. But when we're very quiet, they sometimes come down. But don't worry, when they come down, everybody notices them and they're quickly taken back to the mountains. They're quickly taken back home, okay? And now this here is a very special kind of frog. It's called frog darwin. And it lives in forests and near slow waters. So what is special about this frog is that I think it lives only in Chile. And look at it, it has like a nose, yeah? It has like a pointy nose. Oh, so from the forest, we go to the ocean. And in the ocean, you can find the whales. Yeah? And now from the ocean, back on the ground to the trees, you can find woodpeckers. Yeah? So woodpeckers are birds. They're not like flamingos and penguins that live by the water. Woodpeckers are typical birds, how you imagine them, and they live on the trees, okay? So think about now. Do you have any animals in your surroundings? Now, I know that you are at your homes, and if you have a pet, you will say, yes, I have a pet. But let's think more than that. If you maybe have a garden, are there any more animals that live in your garden? If you're lucky to have a garden, do you ever see bunnies? Do you ever see any other birds? Now, if you dig a little bit in the soil of your garden, or maybe if you don't have a garden, but maybe you have a balcony and on it you have some plants, and if you dig, take a closer look inside that soil. Are there any beings living there? So can you maybe find a worm living in the soil? Can you find any bugs living there? Can you see any butterflies flying around or bees? Again, if you have a garden, have you ever seen a hedgehog in your garden? Yeah. So where we live, we are still surrounded with animals, and the places that we live, our homes and our gardens, our buildings and our schools are still habitats, are still homes to many different animals. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk with you about, and I have a little bit of a homework for you. Okay, and this homework is going to be dealing with mini beasts. Yeah, so mini beasts are insect and animals of similar size. So you have here mini beasts like spider, dragonfly, ant, bee, woodlouse, caterpillar, butterfly, and worm. And here you have different habitats: soil, like ground, hive, lake, leaf, anthill, flowers, under rocks, and web. Okay, so can you match which of these mini beasts lives where? Okay, so guys, please do this homework. Okay, and tomorrow when we have our Zoom lesson, we can go one more time over the presentation. We can check if you remembered the animals that live in Chile. And besides that, I'm also going to show you some plants and their habitats, okay? So guys, thank you for today, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9. Bye-bye.